Yesterday, I very nearly quit making daily videos. I was this close to throwing in the towel and saying, you know what, I need to get serious here, I need to get rational about my situation. These videos take up a lot of time, and if they're not taking up time, they're taking up mental energy, they're taking up the continual need to be creative and everything else that comes with making videos and editing them and uploading and waiting for the uploads. It takes a fair chunk of time, and it can be quite stressful to keep up with this daily output. And I did put my money where my mouth was. About 2 months ago or so, I said very publicly that I would be doing a video every day for an entire year. And I have stuck with that promise. I have admittedly had several moments where I was very, very close to throwing in the towel, but I talked myself back onto the track of creating at least one video every day and just doing it. So I want to use this video time to talk to you about some of the things I consider in my mind and I tell myself in order to stay on track. So this is a video for those of you who create regular content, who maybe put out YouTube videos or a regular podcast, or you write articles, or you make images for Instagram, and you have the intention of building your brand, building your business, building your empire. And I want this to motivate you guys in the same way that these ideas have motivated me, in a way that has really genuinely worked. Otherwise, I would not have been able to stay on track. And there's a handful of ideas that I always return to that I tend to forget just before I'm about to quit. And then I have to sort of think through. Just before I'm about to quit, I say to myself, do you remember those key things that help me stay on track? And whenever I mull these ideas over in my head, it really helps. So one of the ways I stay on track and I avoid quitting is through the fact that I've made this commitment. And to make a commitment stronger and more powerful, it helps to make the commitment public. So the fact that I have very publicly on camera said to you guys that I'm going to do a video no matter what every day for a year, it's very difficult to push that abort button. You know, when my hand is dangling over the button and I think of the fact that I've made a public video about that, which is holding me accountable, it's extremely difficult to abort. So that is one very powerful way that I have managed to, just through my own sort of blackmailing, effectively, I've managed to keep myself on track. So that is a really powerful way to do things. Hold yourself accountable. Have someone else that you are working with one-to-one who you can't let down if you fail. But it's even more powerful, obviously, if you make things public and you have to explain to potentially thousands of people why you have not been able to follow through on your promise. So public commitment or accountability with some other person, and make sure you regularly check in with that person to say, look, this is what I've done. I haven't quit. So I think it's the fear of letting people down and the social stigma that comes with failing on other people that has a lot of power in holding me and anyone else who has made a commitment. The second really interesting idea is that, and this is something that I've learned through many, many years of writing articles and creating content for people and seeing what kinds of things create more engagement than others, and seeing the change in me and the change in the content over time, is you will not get traction. You will not see the engagement you want. You will not get a lot of interest in your work unless you yourself have grown as a person. You yourself have the value to match that traction. And I think a lot of us kid ourselves into thinking that just because we've spent many, many weeks of putting out content every single day, we feel we are deserving of someone's traction, and we get very upset when we don't see the number of likes and subscribes and interest and comments that we think we deserve because of all that work we've put in. The fact of the matter is that if you yourself has not grown and have not risen your own value to the level that is deserving of true traction, of true interest, then you're just not ready, and you have to understand the nature of traction. This is why I go all the way to the extreme of telling people to not expect any traction from their work, from their content, until they've put out at least 300 substantial pieces of individual creative output, whether that be an article or a video or a 20-minute podcast, whatever. Because it's the work that is put into that sheer quantity, the volume, that's going to lead you to have become a bigger and better character, a bigger and better person. And when you are a bigger and better person, you will think in a different way. You will have gone through those challenges and those knocks that have made you think about your place in reality in different ways, and you have strengthened through the adversity that you've been through over the years. And I know this to be true because it took me a long time to see any traction with my article writing. It took me over 250 individual pieces of individual articles to see true traction, and it required a lot of persistence and a lot of work. And it wasn't until I'd got to a stage after that 250th article where I could sense my own growth finally leading to the traction that I was looking for, because my own growth and my own clearer understanding of what made a good article and what kinds of experiences I could take on at that point to write genuine good articles was leading to real traction. And it just became very clear that the reason I was seeing interest in my work was because I was speaking through genuine experience that came through showing up day in, day out, and showing up through the challenge, through the fear, through the unwillingness to do stuff that grew me, that stretched me as a person. And through that stretching, I was able to create better quality work. And the quality is what's really spoke to my audience. And I'm not there yet with the videos. Obviously, I've only just started this channel a couple of months ago, and video creation is an entirely new world for me. I'm not a natural in front of the camera. There's a lot of learning that I know that I need to go through, and I know that I need to grow as a person in the sphere of making videos in order to finally hit that tipping point. There will be a critical mass, I think, in the same way that I found with the articles, where you get to that kind of peak, not peak, but you get to a certain level in your character growth and your experience and your understanding and your awareness of how things work and what makes other people tick, that is finally going to lead to the engagement at the level that you want to see it. And it can take a very long time, and it varies for everyone. So that's another thing that I take into consideration to keep me on track, is that I know that traction takes a lot of quantity, a lot of work, and it's a reflection of yourself as a person. You can't expect to put in lots and lots of work, and just because you've put out lots of work at the same kind of standard or at a low standard, you can't expect traction to come out of that. You need to have grown as a person to create the kinds of work that these people are looking for, which has an emotional spark to it and has a real sense of authenticity and experience behind it. So I know that I'm not there yet with the video making. I'm doing this for the very purpose of building my own character as a video content creator. And the fact that I'm doing this without many people watching me is fine with me. And every time I've considered quitting is because I get too hung up on the numbers. I get too worried about the fact that I'm not getting enough subscribers quick enough, and I'm getting disheartened by the lack of likes and the lack of comments and all that kind of arbitrary, those small details, which overlook the fact that I'm really doing this to build myself as a person and to create better quality in obscurity, if that's what it takes. And that's probably a better thing. It is a better thing to be doing all this stuff and practicing and making mistakes and looking stupid on camera and saying the wrong things in the dark when no one knows you very well yet in the sphere of video making. And this applies to all other platforms depending on what you're doing. So take advantage of the fact that no one is really listening yet, because it's a good thing, because it allows you to practice, it allows you to make mistakes in the dark, and then finally, when you have clicked in your ideas and things start to make more sense to you, which I know that they're coming for me, I'm starting to get more and more clarity about what's working, what isn't working. You will start to grow. You will grow as a person who makes videos. You will start to create much higher levels of quality. You will understand your audience better. You'll understand what they want more. And that is what's going to lead to the traction that you've been waiting for all this time. So it's going to take a while. The other thing that really keeps me on track, that is extremely motivating, that I always forget, this idea that you are building value through your experience on one particular platform, and the fact that you're not getting interest yet, or not getting much interest yet on one particular platform, is not a bad thing in any way, because as long as you're focused on the value growth in yourself, as opposed to the little details like the likes, the subscribes, the other things that most people get hung up on the social media malarkey, getting enough subscribes and comments and getting hung up on that as an indicator of your success, rather than trying to impress through likes and things. Focus on your own value and knowing that the fact that you're growing as a person means that you're going to be able to take that value and deliver it in other places. You're not just confined to YouTube or podcasting. If you build value in a certain place and people aren't listening yet, you're going to be able to use that value and reproduce it in other places that might be even more suitable. So for example, all this time that I spend speaking on helping men and self-development and building business and marketing, that kind of stuff, and NoFap and all that kind of stuff here, doesn't matter so much that not everyone in the world has become aware of what I do and are listening in. I'm growing myself as a coach through this process. I'm becoming more attuned to ideas, and I'm learning more, and I'm researching all the time in creating this content. And of course, that's feeding directly into my expertise as a teacher, as a coach, as a course creator, and as someone who understands myself more and more and the human condition. And I can of course take all that information and share that in other ways through articles and books, but I can also help people through my coaching one-to-one. It's not all about creating enormous followings, and some types of content are more suitable to a more niche, smaller audience, and that's just the way it is. Some people create extremely trendy stuff that is more suitable to, bigger audiences, and some people create more niche topics that will never really reach the masses, but still is able to help people in a powerful way at a smaller scale. The other thing to bear in mind is if you guys are looking for support from other people in keeping you on track and staying motivated beyond your accountability partners and whoever else is holding you accountable on getting this content out, don't expect to be supported by anyone. No one really cares that you're succeeding on things that you've just started on until you have succeeded. People will start to show interest when you have shown a certain level of success. No one really cares that much when you're in the process, when you're building something, because people, if I'm being honest, they don't really want to see success in other people if it's going to outdo them, because it's going to make them feel insecure. So don't expect too much support. Obviously here and there, there'll be some great people in your life who are worth including, who will support you, but don't rely on it. Don't rely on outside attention. So if you ask a friend for advice and stuff, don't be put down by what they say if it's delivered in a way that is not encouraging or as encouraging as you thought it might be. And it might be that they're packaging their own sabotage of your development in a compliment. And don't be surprised if you go away from a conversation thinking, gosh, I'm not feeling good about this. I think I might quit. It's because these guys, they don't want to see you succeed so much. Okay, so don't rely on other people's support. Just own this commitment yourself. This is your responsibility. You've made this commitment. Don't rely on anyone around you to make it work. Just focus on what you said you would do. Hold fast on your target. Have faith in yourself. You really have to dig out that extra faith that so many people lack in themselves, that you have to find in seemingly trivial things like making content for YouTube. It seems like such a trivial thing. This is why so many people don't build up big followings and don't stay on track with their output, because they don't have that faith that they need to dig out really, really from far behind the recesses of your mind in order to stay on track and stay motivated. You have to dig out that self-confidence from somewhere. And a lot of times it might feel very precarious making stuff that is shrouded in uncertainty in terms of how your content is going to impact the world. You have no idea how successful it's going to be. You don't know what kinds of things are going to work better than others. You just don't really know. It's all new ground, and this is the nature of being an entrepreneur. It's very precarious, it's very vulnerable, it's very uncertain, and you have to be able to tolerate that uncertainty on a daily basis. You need to be able to handle the idea that you don't know whether the next article is going to be a complete flop, the next YouTube video is going to be a complete flop. You just have to have faith in the commitment that you've made and be willing to deal with the rejection of seeing nobody respond to your video, and just to do that day in, day out, knowing that eventually there will be a tipping point. As I mentioned before, there will be a critical mass of content that you've put together, and this varies from person to person and the type of industry that you're working in, of course, but there will be a tipping point that you reach at some point. This will happen. If you don't quit, you will find success eventually in one form or another. And the more intensity and regularity and thought and awareness that you put into this project, the sooner that's going to come, the sooner that tipping point is going to be reached, where you reach a point of clarity on what your audience wants, who your audience is, what kind of content they really need. You'll get there. put together enough nodes of information, and they're going to clash together in such a way that your clarity will open up like a light bulb, and you'll be able to see exactly what you need to do, when you need to do it, and for the kinds of people you need to deliver it for. So use this journey now in your obscurity to build up the information and knowledge you need that is going to take you to that tipping point. I'm not there yet, and I'm enjoying this process for the most part, except on days where I want to give up. And of course, that's normal, that's part of the process. But it certainly helps to have an idea and some ideas just in your tool bag to refer back to motivate you again and to pick you up, because you will face self-doubt, you will face frustration. It's all part of this process of when you commit to something, especially something big. Nothing like this is supposed to be easy, but it makes it a hell of a lot easier when you know why you are doing this, and you know how these things can work, and you understand the science effectively of how these things work. So these are just a handful of ideas that I remind myself of whenever I'm feeling a bit, why am I doing this? Losing faith, losing hope. There's no support out there. It just feels a bit ridiculous sometimes. And I can totally relate. I've been there. One other thing I want to leave you with before I end this is just the fact that I have seen this work. So if you followed my writing, as I say, I wrote 250, 300 articles that were not getting any comments over several years. And you just need to understand that if someone like me can do this with enough persistence, commitment over such a long time, anything is possible. These things tend to be much bigger, require much more energy and commitment and persistence than you think. These things tend to be monumental. But the fact that I've done this motivates myself. This is what's kept me on track with the videos. I always thought that I wasn't a very good writer before. I stuck with it. I thought of these same things pretty much that kept me on track. It took me 250 articles until I started getting some traction. And now I know that this understanding and this commitment will lead to good things, because now I know that follow accounts aren't everything. I know that subscribe accounts aren't everything, but I've got 30,000 people now hooked into my articles, whereas 3 years ago I had very little interest at all in my writing. So I know that things can change with the right attitude and the right strategy, and I'm going to apply this to my videos, and I hope that these ideas apply to whatever you are fixated on at the moment. And I encourage you to not give up. You only fail if you quit. So I hope that helped, guys. Do subscribe if this made sense. Like this video if you want to hear more like this, and you want to alert the YouTube reptilian overlords that we exist and that I exist. I'd love for you to help push this content out there and help other guys who create content. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.